a bunch of you guys were leaving comments wondering how the game would run on lower end PCs, specifically lower end CPUs like Intel Core i3s. A lot of them were 7th gen or above, but I thought I'd do a video on the minimum required specs for this game, which is an i5-2400, 8GB of RAM, and a GTX 750 Ti. I don't have a 2400 Intel Core i5, but I do have a 4550, which is a 4th gen i5, 8GB of RAM, and a GTX 750 Ti. Alright, let's jump into the video settings. We're going to be doing 1080p on the low settings. Hopefully it runs well. If we get 60 FPS, I'll be very impressed, but I'm expecting 30 FPS at 1080p. And if it runs well, I'll increase the settings medium and high. If it doesn't run well, I'll drop the resolution down to 900p and 720p. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, 40 FPS. This is actually insanely good. I was expecting to be getting 30 FPS, but we're sitting in between the high 30s to the mid 50s. And this is an open world, an open area as well, which is much harder to run. Indoor areas will probably gain 10 FPS, 5 to 10 FPS indoors, but this open world area, we are still sitting in the mid 40s to high 40s, which is insanely good. And the game feels pretty smooth as well. I'm using a keyboard and mouse for this video, and the game still feels pretty smooth with the mouse movements.
The Force can have a strong
Obviously, if you had a controller, you feel even better at lower frame rates, but
let's make our way to that
if you don't, it still feels really good.
Find our pilot.
Now, as you can see, our CPU is sitting in the high 70, in the mid 50s to the high 70s. So everyone else that's using a much newer CPU, a 7th gen or above, or even lower, you know, you'll have no issue at all. I mean, even if I'm using a 4th gen and still not having any issues, so the CPU bottleneck likely not to happen.
But a pilot
okay, indoors.
Alright.
Our frame rate actually dropped, surprisingly. I was expecting us to gain some FPS, but we've actually lost FPS. Looking in specific areas. 35, 30. Okay. Now some scenes in the game will definitely cause you an FPS drop.
Stay out of his way.
In episode 2, in the Droid Factory, there's definitely FPS drops to be had there. And on Endor, there's definitely areas as well where I did get FPS drops. But those are the only 2 that I can think of, and I think it's a known issue as well, so we'll probably get optimized better in future updates and we'll get fixed that, just so we can see how it performs when we are in a battle. Seems like our FPS is still sitting, by the way, FPS ranges between the high 30s to the low 40s, so nothing too different from the open world, which is good to see. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and drop our resolution. I don't want to push it up any higher because our FPS definitely ranges between the high 30s to the high 50s, so we're already pushing it a little bit. So I won't push our quality up, but I will drop our resolution down and then push the quality up from there. So let's go ahead and bring it down to 900p 60 FPS or 60 Hz, and on low settings. Okay. The game still looks pretty good, but needs anti-aliasing a little bit since we are running at a lower resolution. And the problem is when I pan, like right here, I'm getting 60 FPS, very smooth. You can definitely feel 60 FPS going on here. But when I pan the camera, FPS drops down to the from the high 30s and then up to the high 40s after it stabilizes. So 900p definitely pushes our FPS up into the 50s, but when you pan the camera too quickly, we do get pretty bad FPS drops. So it just depends if you do like the extra frame rate, or if you rather have a stable, consistent 40 FPS at 1080p. But obviously this depends on your card and your CPU, but with the minimum specs, this is how it's going to run. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring our quality up a little bit so we can get some anti-aliasing going so we get less jagged edges. And shadow quality, I like it on medium because we are getting some shadowy issues. SSR, also let's just push it up to medium. Medium settings, right here. See how it runs. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of tough to say. I can't really tell if we're getting a big improvement or not. FX88 doesn't really help with jagged edges too much. It definitely does help, but it's not as big of a jump as one might think. I've disabled NIS and ow, okay. Misclick. It does look better. I don't like the extra sharpening from NIS in this game. In other games, it definitely does look better when you do have NIS enabled, but in this game, it just makes it look weird. I don't know why. 720p is not that bad now when you actually disable NIS. And I'm playing on a 27-inch screen, so if you got a smaller screen like a 21-inch or a 24-inch, it will look even better at 720p. And as you can see, we're getting 90 FPS and at lowest. Oh, maybe I should pan the camera now. I don't feel the FPS drops anymore. That's actually really good. Because I think at lowest was 60. Oh, we fell into the 50s. It was the high 50s. I still rather play this game at 30 FPS 1080p than or 40 FPS at 1080p than 720p at 90 FPS or above 60 FPS, I guess. Because the quality difference is just far too high from 720p to 1080p. Even though the game still does look decently good at 720p, but when you play the 1080p, there's a reason it's just kind of hard to go back. Alright, I think I'll wrap the video here, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. See you next time.